Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gifted Creative Podcast. I'm Lillian Skinner. It's been a while since we talked. I haven't been able to do these podcasts for a while because I've been moving and building the Creative Intelligence Institute up in Canada. It is now up and set, and I'm working with people, and we're building really interesting classes, and we're trying to create something for everybody who's struggling out there that's a creative. I think we need to first, though, talk about what a creative is, because so many people do not understand what a creative is, and there's a lot of reason for it. Creative intelligence has been pretty much erased. And if I didn't come from a family that was such extreme creatives that were savants in a way that's the whole picture and our systems don't really recognize our value, but yet we're walking around with an incredible amount of talent. I know so many families like us where people in them that play music without any lessons and learn and figure out things without any classes and walking around with all the knowledge you need to just survive, that would be a creative. A creative is a whole picture person, and that is what the Creative Intelligence Institute is meant to do. Now, there's not been a lot of demand for creatives because we are not paid in our system for the most part. We are expected to do regular jobs and then create for the whole group on the side. And that is exactly what has happened to my husband and I, where we've done a lot of regular jobs where we're like building a division for somebody while we get paid an average person's working wage. And that is really great for rich people. It's really great for the employers, but it's not so great for the actual employee who's a creative. With AI, they need creative intelligence. They need whole intelligence. They need the intelligence that can understand the abstract and bring the big picture abstraction and the small picture abstraction together to make it whole, because that's how we navigate reality, and that has been lost. The cognitive people are very small picture. They tend to function in abstraction. They're breaking things apart, and they have all these theories, but they don't actually apply to real life. And I actually reached out recently and asked somebody who was studying the same thing in mental health integration of intelligence. And I asked her if she wanted to be on the podcast. She couldn't understand what I was talking about because mine was whole and hers was abstract. The projection I got was, are you crazy? When hers is not complete, it's just really a bunch of fractured thoughts. And mine shows it in real human beings. I think that's interesting, but I do think that's history. I think our history has been that we get told we're crazy because we're thinking in a way that most people don't have anymore, they've lost. And if you lose your body's intelligence, which is what I call our somatic intelligence, and I know some people see it differently in our humanities, but for me, soma means body, so somatic means body intelligence. And the way my body intelligence manifests, I think most people would consider it crazy. I have integrated intelligence, and my family has savantism. We just keep our integration in some form or fashion, and mine is particularly wide. And mine probably be a savantism in the humanities, but we don't recognize that. Because why? Why don't we recognize savantism in the humanities, the ability to see the whole of the healthy picture? Because our system isn't healthy, and I think that's pretty apparent. There's nothing about it that heals you. And because I have that whole picture, I've healed myself many times. Now, I grew up with parents who were pretty fractured and pretty miserable. When you are creative and you fracture, you're going to be pretty miserable. Most people fracture to their body or their head. There are plenty of people, though, I know that fracture in the middle and they can't find their reality. They're often called bipolar, or they're called schizophrenia. I see them as creatives who are not able to find the middle part, the reality part. The problem with our system is they only allow us to do dissection. So if you're only in the cognitive, and you're only breaking that small picture down, you're going to end up in a realm of neuroscience. You're going to end up in a very tiny space, but it's not necessarily applicable to real life. So what I'm trying to provide with the Creative Intelligence Institute is the whole picture. We're going to talk about the environment and how creatives move through the environment, how our body naturally moves. Everybody is born creative except for 1 or 2% of the population that actually is born with psychopathy. Sociopaths are created by psychopathy, because they're living in an environment that fractures them to their body. They become very selfish and they can't really be kind because their sensitivity is just being triggered so much. I grew up with them. I'm very clear on who they are. Then I went into banking and public accounting, really learned intimately what a psychopath was. So I really run the gamut growing up and working in our systems, and they exhaust me because I end up being the person they need the most, but the person they treat the worst. When you are a creative, everybody in the system is taught to devalue you, to expect you to deliver for them because you're not quite right. You're not average. You're not normal. Well, I hate to break it to them, but we are actually average and normal. The creatives in the intelligence spectrum are the middle. Everybody that's an HSP, That means sensitive at the mind, sensitive at the body. You're a creative, but a lot of you have been fractured. A lot of you are not in touch with your body's intelligence. My body's intelligence is pretty loud and clear. It comes up with emotions. My emotions speak. They say, you have this long before that will kill you. And it tells me actually a day. And I'm pretty sure this is because my sensitivity is so high that I can't afford to not be very clear on what my thresholds are. My body breaks pretty easily. I have seizures. I have POTS. I have Ehlers-Danlos, so I pass out pretty easily. I will pass out because I don't eat enough of a certain vitamin. I'll pass out because I don't eat enough, period. I'll pass out if I don't drink enough. I am not weak, but I am on a razor's edge thinness of balance. I must have balance or I pass out or I get sick or I hurt something pretty bad. The cool thing is that I have really high healing ability. And so I can break something. It could even be my intelligence. Like my intelligence could be like, I can't see it anymore. I can't see the hole anymore. But then it sort of repairs it once I go to sleep, a good sleep. I think everyone is probably like this. I just may be an outlier in my extremeness, but I'm looking for all the others who have to be like me, the ones who have to be healthy, the ones that need to have proper balance in their lives, because the payoff for balance in your life is huge. When I'm able to exercise my head, exercise my body, exercise the whole intelligence of creation, when I can do all three of those in a day, it's a good day for me. I feel really, really good. And I think in our natural state, that's a necessity. We are supposed to make our lives. We're supposed to create them. Everybody's supposed to make the house that they're living in. Everybody's supposed to make the clothes that they wear. Everybody's supposed to make the food that they eat. And I think that we can have specializations in small towns, and it's fine and it's healthy and it's good. But everybody's supposed to be doing a little bit of everything, because that is what keeps us well-rounded. That is actually what cultivates us. That is the feedback loop for full singularity, recursive intelligence. And when you are creative, you have that. It's not really that special or hard. It makes you aware. You're aware of your environment. You know what reality is, and you're living within it. And nobody's really needing to tell you. You're self-directive, and that's singularity. The irony is that they thought it was going to happen in tech. I knew it wasn't going to happen in tech. I've been in tech for 20 years, and I knew that it wasn't going to happen in tech because I could see in college that I was laying down my intelligence, how the different parts of it functioned. So my emotions function like a database. I know that my emotions storage and retrieve my pattern recognition, and I use prompts to bring up the memories and the patterns. And the memories are not really so much for me as they are for other people. I use the memories to explain in story what the whole idea is. But I do realize that not a lot of people have maintained this. So I am looking for a small subset of people who want to get rid of their despair and just figure out, like, how do I work? Because our systems don't let us know that. They don't tell us how we work. I can't not figure it out. I can literally ask my body, why is this a bad thing? Or why is this a good thing? And it'll say, it's not a bad thing. You're supposed to be doing that. I don't know that it's the same or it's appropriate for everyone. I just know how it works for me. And then I'll share that. And then people are like, oh, I think mine might be something like that. And then they figure it out for themselves. But the goal isn't so much that I am dictating what you are or what you should be or how you need to move, because that's a slavery system. Only a slavery system dictates to you what the heck you are. You dictate to you what the heck you are in a healthy system. And that's really what it needs to be. Did I grow up in a healthy system? No. Did I find my way there? Yes. And why did I find my way there? Because my sensitivity required it. I had 3 very sensitive children. I was watching everybody else's children break. I didn't want to have that same thing. And so I just started creating what they needed so that they were not breaking, because my childhood was so fraught. I really was that kid that everybody sees today that's losing it. I had to function because there was poverty, there was a lot of anger and stress and unkindness, and I couldn't figure out how to be what they wanted me to be without breaking because I couldn't maintain the schedule that I was on. It was too much for my sensitivity. And there's a whole bunch of us out there that are in this bucket, and more are going to keep joining. We are the chronic ill, chronic sick, chronic everything people. I had asthma chronically, seizures chronically, passing out chronically, sickness chronically. And when I got away from my home environment and I built my own, that all went away. And I still have pain, and I still have Ehlers-Danlos, and I still have to work out, and I still have to take care of myself. But is that really a bad thing? No, it's not. It's actually a great thing. So I created this institute for all the people who are like me, people who are too sensitive to fit in the system, so that we can build something that is healthy, that allows us to survive and live and just grounds us in reality, because that is exactly what we need. You know what higher consciousness is? It's reality. It's pretty boring, actually. And I have a website where I put my models up there. I talk about how creative intelligence actually sits on Bloom's taxonomy of thinking. And I also have a taxonomy for somatic intelligence. And I put this all into AI so that people can find it if they're looking for it, because I know it's coming towards me. I know that where I'm sitting is where we're going to be. I'm a futurist. I've always lived in the future. People have been very mad at me and told me there's something wrong with me for living in the future, but it has paid off really, really well. And so I'm going to stay there. I know what people need. I get in front of that. I do my very best to serve those who serve me. I can't help people who can't serve other people, because that would kill me, and it literally has almost killed me. And I have to let people go who are not reciprocal or not fair. But those who are, I welcome into my community. There's a lot of people today that just don't know how to navigate their own lives. They don't know how to figure out who they are. They're trying to fit themselves into a box that just keeps getting smaller. And I want them to reconsider if they need to. Instead of beating yourself up, maybe figure out how you really could do it, how you should do it. I know we're getting down to this place where AI is so controlling and the system's so controlling and the bosses are so controlling. But the reason it hurts so much is that they only pay for dissection. And when you do dissection all day long, it's exhausting. Unless you're a psychopath, dissection is exhausting if you're doing it all day long. If you look at our system, it is set up so that they take the humanities people, break them, they put them managing everyone else and telling them how to get back to work and how to produce for the system. And nobody ever lets you heal and get out. The mental health systems are set up to continue your fracture, not actually make you whole. So you're being tortured if you're put in them. And then when you get out of them, you are supposed to go to work, which also is basically another form of torture, because you're forced to be doing one single part of being human all day, and that's dissection. I kind of like dissection sometimes when I'm pulling something apart and trying to understand how it works so I can put it back together. It's fun, but they never let us put it back together. They only let us pull it apart. So when you're pulling things apart, you're creating dissection. You're taking a connection between something and you're severing it. I don't see it any different than a kid who's pulling apart an old rotary phone and is like, I think this is so cool. But they never put it back together again. They don't really learn how the phone works when it's functioning. They just learn how you pull it apart. Dissection is part of learning. It's not a whole of learning. I don't understand why people don't see that you're missing the other half, that unless you're creating and you're connecting and you're making more with it, you're not actually pushing your intelligence. You're stagnating it. This is why psychopaths need the rest of the group. They have to have them because they can't do anything beyond psychopath or beyond dissection. Yes, that's the same thing. Psychopathy equals dissection. They pull apart, they consume what was once living, and they can't produce, so they must extract. Now, the rest of us are producers. If you're highly somatic, your body intelligence is really high, you feel the big picture, you end up being somebody who can connect easily. Connection is something I cannot not do every day all the time. And people kind of laugh at me for it. You got your big thinking hat on, but it's not a thinking hat I have on. My body intelligence is really integrated into my mind. Everything for me is linear and nonlinear, and I can't not connect it. I find it easy. People understand what I'm saying if they can understand connection. But if you're highly abstract, you're highly cognitive, you're highly into the detail, I'm going to seem way out there. I'm going to seem like, what the heck are you talking about? I find cognitive people think I bewilder them. This is because they've lost their body intelligence, because there should be a second half. There should be a big picture and a small picture in all pictures. If you don't have the environment, if you're looking at only the highlighted part that's color, it's not really a whole picture. It's just a picture of one thing. My brain needs the whole picture. It's like, okay, thank you for this picture of this animal. What is the environment that animal lives in so I can know more about it? Because just knowing what the animal looks like does not tell me much about that animal. I need to know where it lives, what's the temperature, what's the rainfall, in order for me to understand why it's built the way it's built. I think a platypus may be the most interesting animal I can think of off the top of my head, but that animal just plopped it down. You'd be like, what continent is this animal on? Why is this animal existing? Why is it so different than all the others? And when you give its environment, then it all makes sense. And this is almost exactly what is wrong with our system today. Our environment has been lost. We do not live in forests. We do not live in healthy spaces. We're not outside. We don't know the nature patterns. We live in cities, which are contrived places of psychopaths. They're all 2D. I need 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. I need all these higher dimensions because my brain functions up there. And you call me pathologize for that, but I'm the one who's everybody's trying to get to right now. Everybody's trying to figure out how to be whole, how to be higher consciousness. Higher consciousness is no big deal. It's just reality. It's knowing your whole picture. It's kind of crazy that I spent my whole life being quiet and not saying my truth and not honoring who I was because everybody else is offended by it because I come along and I'm like the kid who is, hey, that emperor has no clothes on. I have been the emperor has no clothes on kid for my entire existence, and I'm well into adulthood now, and I shouldn't be that kid, and there should be more adults like me. So I started this Creative Intelligence Institute with adults like me so we could find more adults like us so we can just be at peace and not be harassed for seeing whole picture because it seems to offend everyone else. It definitely offends the somatic people in my family. They get very mad at me because I see all the details, and they feel insecure when I see all the details. But it isn't like I'm trying to make them feel bad. I'm simply trying to say, hey, but the details are going to counter what you're trying to do. And so maybe we should think about the whole picture. And they're like, who are you to say that? You're not special. I didn't say I was special. I just said, maybe let's look at the whole picture. They fit into the system. I don't because I fall apart because it's constantly making me dissect because I'm more cognitive and the cognitive is where most of the value is according to the system. But now with AI, the cognitive isn't where most of the value is. Although the tool is getting crappier and I'm definitely going to have to figure out making my own than the slop AI that's out there because it really is getting worse. I was looking through my papers and what I wrote in the first 2 years using it is so much more delicate and beautiful than the last year. I am doing so much more rewriting. AI really does suck. And it does need people like me who have whole picture and people like everyone I work with because we can see the whole picture. We make it elegant. We make it clear and beautiful. All this partialness is what makes it either one extreme or the other. If you use AI and you ask to make it whole, emotional and factual, they can't. They give you just feelings or they give you science. Why can't you just make that whole? Why don't you just connect the two? And that's how little whole thinking is in our system. We have so much abstract that it's either a series of bullet points or it's a series of feelings. But you're supposed to have them two together. I have whole intelligence and my emotions and thinking is one. My body intelligence speaks, my head intelligence speaks, my pre-verbal cognition, as they call it, is as loud and as clear as it can be. And so I know who I am. I know what my reality is. I discern quite easily. And this is exactly what we need to navigate change. We need to use AI well to do everything that the future requires. And yet, what are we doing in our school systems? We're definitely not teaching that. We're not teaching risk assessment. One of my clients was telling me, he said, I sit in our meetings and I'm one of those people that has to be kind of obstinate. I have to think about all the other things. That's perfect. I love that. Keep doing that. That's exactly what I want to see because we have to do that. That's how we see all the perspective takings. I want you to be contrary to me. This challenges me. It makes me grow more. It makes it clearer for everyone. We don't allow that in our school systems. We don't allow our children to say, but what if this happened? Or but what if that happened? It's like, nope, just receive this. My children, we learn to be very quiet and we learn to be very withdrawn, which is very hard for us because we have a lot of energy in our bodies and we really want to be a part of things and we get in trouble when we become our natural selves. So I'm creating a space where we are allowed to be our natural selves. So we'll have small classes. I'm created this first for my own children and then I'm just extending it out to other people's children and we're just growing slowly through natural organic growth rather than dissection. And the goal is to heal, make our intelligence whole because when your intelligence is whole, you can see the whole picture, you can navigate it, you can figure out what is making you upset or what is breaking you or what is making you just miserable and you can fix it. People are told you can't fix your own situations. I disagree. I've only fixed my own situations. If I let other people fix it, my sensitivity is so high, I end up being harmed. I can't take all these drugs. They make it worse. I can't take all these things the system requires us to take so we can stay in it because they just make it worse. But maybe, just maybe, you're not supposed to stay in it. It's cracking. It's breaking. It's going to get worse. I'm nervous about what it's going to be. So if you are interested in trying to figure out new ways of being, new ways of seeing, whole ways of existing, then this is where we're going. This is the direction we are already in. We are trying to help our children see the whole picture so they can navigate the way they work. Now, I remember as a child, people being more like this, but it wasn't in the family I grew up in. My family was trying to break us down because we needed to fit in and we were such outliers. Now, I don't really see people like this. We're missing people who are whole and trying to find their own way and just being. Everybody's so driven towards extremes of cognitive or somatic. People contact me and they want to do remote viewing and things that are like exploring aliens. I'm not really interested in that. I actually have worked in those spaces and I know people who do them and I understand them because I think they're interesting to learn about, but I'm not going to pursue that. I think those are both fractures. I am grounded in reality and I want to know how we use our intelligence to navigate reality, understand reality, create new so we can live in the reality we live in. I can't pretend that this world is going to be okay and that if we just keep going on the path we're going, everything's going to turn out well. I can't pretend that. I can see it won't. Everybody should be able to see it now, but I have been able to see it for a long time. And so I've been on this journey for 6 years trying to figure out how I can create another path because my children need this. We aren't fitting into the system. We don't get the opportunities that maybe we did a generation or two ago because the system has so locked down on just this one style of cognition, dissection only, cognitive only. And if you don't live in that and you can't live in that like 12 hours a day, which I cannot, I'm a 4-hour a day in my cognitive, 4-hour a day in my somatic, and then I can do probably 8 hours a day in my creative easily. But if I have to do just in my cognitive, it breaks me. It makes my body start to get sick. It makes my body in chronic pain. I can't sit still all day. That's not how I function. And no matter how many times you drug me, all you're going to do is just get me faster into collapse. Now, I have been through collapse a multitude of times. Every time I have a seizure, it's technically a collapse. Every time I pass out, it is a collapse. Every time I get really sick and can't get up, that is a collapse. Collapse is just you not being able to function normal. Everybody seems to be pretty afraid of collapse. Like if they do it, they're going to lose their minds. No, you don't lose your minds. Yes, you lose your reality for a little bit and then you build it back up. But it's not nearly as bad if you've done it 1,000 times as if you've never done it before. It seems very scary. And unfortunately, our system won't let you find your reality to do it. I was forced to do it many times when I was a child. My parents weren't into the medical system because the medical system was trying to force them to be something they couldn't be. And so when I broke, we didn't tell anybody. My mother literally said to me, "You don't have seizures," after I had a positive EEG for seizures. My family was like, "You have to figure it out yourself." Now, I'm not so sure my parents did. They figured it out to some degree for themselves, but they didn't learn how to extend it perhaps to others. This is maybe the one that I did do differently. I learned how to extend it to others. I don't try to make them like me. I actually am more interested in figuring out how we're different from each other, how we're unique, how we function in our own unique way, because that I think is the most valuable thing you can give me. If you can tell me how you work and how it's new and different, it expands my ability to figure out new ways for me working. And that's exactly what we're trying to figure out at our Creative Intelligence Institute. It's not me alone. I have some amazing people that are on there. And if you're interested, you can look it up at creativeintelligenceinstitute.ca. That's CA for Canada. Creative Intelligence Institute. You got to put the www before that, and then you'll find us. But we're out there now, and the goal is that we heal and connect and grow and understand what our natural state is as humanity. We're all born creative, intelligent. There's only a tiny percent that isn't, and they're born with psychopathy. They have a role in our society just as much as everyone else, but right now they seem to be dominating it. I think that's actually quite unhealthy. So purpose, I think, is to find our way back to what is healthy and just ground reality. That's singularity, you being aware of your environment in real time and knowing what's going on and living in that space. I live near the woods. I go into the woods regularly. There's a lot of mountain lions where I live, and I have to be aware of that. It is a very different sort of being in that space than it would be in the city. The cities, the workplaces, everything that we have for school, it's very boring. The outside, they're trying to diminish your environmental awareness. That as we move further in and the weather is going to be more volatile and we have to be more aware of our environment, we need back the ability to sense what's going on around us. And I have not lost mine because I just can't. It heals itself and there's nothing I can do. And so I have to practice it. And I know it's not as great as it could be. I know that there's people who have managed to maintain and grow theirs. Mine might have just been maintained. I'm not sure that I grew it. But our systems are set up so that our environmental awareness is nil, nothing, nada. It's amazing to me. We have no environmental awareness. And when you have no environmental awareness, you cannot connect with others. And I see that all over the place. We lack connection. Everybody's in despair. If you don't connect, you do feel like, why live? Because connection is a part of life. And I think that I don't have a choice. My connection needs to be deeper. When I find that I'm connected to people, I am at peace. When I'm not, I feel very disjointed and uncomfortable. And that makes sense because that's how humanity survives, is by connection, not dissection. And that is all we offer in our systems, is dissection. So I'm going to sit on the outside a little bit and try to find a connection point with those who want to go maybe towards balance. The creatives are the people who have sensitive head and body, and we are supposed to be in the middle. We're supposed to be the balance bringers. We need to live in both the big picture and the small. And we kind of reconnect ourselves to the rest of the world, to each other, to the animals, to the environment. And that is why we've been denied. Cartesian dualism denied us our intelligence, it denied our functioning. There's a whole sect of us that moves through the world in a very unique and organic way. And we produce our talent by just moving through the world in that way. I know this because I come from a family that's extreme outliers in this, but our natural gift is music, math, or the humanities, and I am one of them. My intelligence sort of speaks to me on my body level and my mind level, and it goes back and forth, and I have the Socratic method literally going on in my head and body, trying to figure out what the heck the world is, what the reality is, what this person's perspective is that they see it this way. Today, it's a really challenging thing to do because other people's perspectives are fractured to such a degree where they're only living in the cognitive small picture abstract, which doesn't apply to reality at all, or they're only living in the big picture reality, which is sort of like cosmos, feelings. They believe in nature, but they believe in sort of like a spiritual force. And that's just not where I'm at. Pretty much sit in the middle and try to see how it fits into the real life, the life I'm in right now. I think it's very telling that our system thinks someone who speaks in the abstraction of cognitive, using all the vocabulary words, speak of the higher consciousness, and they speak of singularity, and they speak of all these words that really don't mean something in real life that's nearly as amazing as they make it out to be. They just mean reality. Whereas if somebody were to speak in the terms of angels and demons, then that person is a little cuckoo, they're overly religious. But that's just big picture. It's the same words as the higher consciousness singularity terms. I don't see any difference between the two of them. If you ground them, one's big picture, one's small picture. They're different words to describe the same thing. One's just not acceptable in the system, and the other one is. Now, the creatives, when we say our piece, when we bring in whole reality, a lot of times the room just stops. They get quiet. They're like, what? I find that when I approach people who are cognitive and we're talking about integration, we're talking about singularity, we're talking about the exact same sort of approach, the person's response is to say, you don't know what I'm talking about. Not to ask me what I'm talking about, but to tell me I don't know what they're talking about. When in reality, I do know what they're talking about. They're projecting on me what they don't know. They assume I can't see what they're seeing because they can't see what I'm seeing. But that's not true. That is the difference. I can see the whole picture, and so I'm like, no, I'm clear on what you're doing. Would you like to talk about it? But they can't grasp it because I've just moved them out of their little corner that they're staring at. It will be very dangerous in the future we face. We can't just be staring into corners as the whole big picture is in turmoil around us. That person is going to want to try to control the situations when they're not controllable, and we need to turn the other way and move into connection so that we can collectively address them but not control them. Because control is not realistic. You can only control the small picture. You cannot control the big picture. And the people who are big picture thinkers know this. They move into it. They feel it, but they don't necessarily know how to share it. They don't know how to articulate it in a way that's based in reality. So a lot of times their stuff comes out as very ethereal, or it comes out in a way where it's really hard to understand on how to action on it, because you can't action on the cosmos. You can't action on your signs. You can't action on a lot of this stuff. I don't need a card to say, hey, what's going on? I can just ask my body and it says, hey, this is what's going on. And my detail is greater for it. But I do think tarot cards have a value. I think that they kind of teach people how to find their way back to balance. If you are highly cognitive, if you use the tarot cards to maybe bring back your somatic intelligence to understand how big picture applies, it is a good thing, but it's not going to actually help you do it internally. It's going to externalize it. Those of us who do internal work, who are mind and body connected, everything in our system, and I can't say it enough, everything is about breaking it. All the somatic work keeps you in your body. All the cognitive work keeps you in your head. None of them bring you together. In my model, that is supposed to come together. Your cerebellar is a massive, amazing connection machine, and it takes it and it intertwines the big picture and the small and makes you see the whole. This is known now in neuroscience. Our integrated state is actually our natural state, and that is exactly what the creatives bring to the table, and that's why they had to be erased, because you can't be conditioned into a society without creative people being the ones to uncondition others. When you learn to create, you no longer fit into our old society because it does not create. Yet, this is what they need most. This is what AI requires in order to stay cognizant, in order to stay clear, in order to not be AI slop. They need whole picture connections. They need something to insert it in. They have so much data right now that everything is a bunch of choppy crap. You cannot really use it. You cannot get it to write well. You cannot get it to do things that are useful, and that is going to reduce its value. But if you bring in a creative, a person who they call the centaur of the use of it, they are going to make it whole again. And then it makes sense. But AI is still 2D. It's not going to move past 2D. All of these people saying that AI is going to have singularity and it's going to kill us all. It's not going to kill us all. It's going to get programmed to kill us all. It's going to get programmed to control us. Constantly take the tools that creatives make and they dissect them down so that they can use them to control people. But if you don't want to be controlled, if you're suffering with AI psychosis, the only alternative is to find your whole intelligence, to really ground yourself in reality so that you know the difference. Because AI is just a 2D spinning machine that can spin you all the way out into abstract cognitive or abstract somatic. You can go as deep as you want into the metaphysical, and you can go as deep as you want into the cognitive. The difference is when you go to the middle. The middle, you take the big and you small, you put them together, and you make sure they are matching. And that's discernment. Those of us who are creative, we know our reality, and everybody's always mad at us for knowing our reality because you're not supposed to dictate your own reality. You're supposed to live in everybody else's, but you just can't help it. And if you're looking for others that are going to let you have your own reality, they're going to just let you be what you are and collectively want to understand how it all fits together, and that's part of connecting, then you're probably supposed to be with us. You're probably going to enjoy our group. I have a creative collective. It's free. Everyone who's a whole picture creative is welcome to join it. It's actually quite fun and interesting, and the people there are very connection-oriented. I built this hoping that my children can grow up connected to other people. The creatives are the first they disconnect in school. We're the ones with the really high intelligence that are very excited to see peers and want to do stuff and talk too much. And we can also be quiet because I have both kinds, but we're the ones that need to connect deeply, whether or not we say it out loud. And we don't do well in the environments that force us to dissect and pretend and live on scripts. We're authentic, and it's rare, and it's beautiful. We need more of that today, and that's what we're going to allow the people who join us to be, is just who they are. People have asked me if I am a church. People have asked me if I'm building a cult. People have asked me every question in the world. I invite it. Go right ahead. It's really just about understanding how science mixes with the big picture, how the cosmos fits into the day-to-day life. It's the middle ground. I know this is really hard for people to see because they're just not used to the middle ground, but that's exactly what it is. It's reality. If you can find your reality, you know how to navigate life. If you can't find your reality, you can't navigate life. And right now, I think this may be the most important thing we can offer is reality. So that is it for my podcast today. I will talk more about my creative intelligence model because I have built one. It's actually been probably built a million zillion times in history, but it is, again, being introduced. It'll be slightly refined, but there's many other people before me that have come up with similar models, so I'm not out there just creating stuff that's random. It's very grounded in history, and I think you'll find it interesting. I think it makes life feel balanced. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Take care, everyone. The content of this podcast is for general education and informational purposes only and is not professional advice of any kind. The host is an intelligence researcher and educator, not a licensed psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, or any other mental health clinician. Nothing in this podcast is intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any mental health conditions, nor does it establish as a therapist, client, or doctor-patient relationship. This podcast may discuss psychological concepts and may disagree with or critique prevailing clinical or professional viewpoints. Those discussions are academic commentary, not individualized guidance. Reliance on any information from this podcast is at the listener's own discretion and risk. Copyright use of content. Unless otherwise stated, all podcast content, including audio recordings, transcripts, episode notes, frameworks, original terms, and other materials, is copyrighted and owned by myself, Lillian Skinner, and the podcast rights holder. no portion may be copied, reproduced, republished, distributed, transmitted, publicly performed, displayed, modified, excerpted beyond brief quotations, or used to create derivative works without prior written permission, except where permitted by applicable law. Requests for permission, licensing, or citation quotation guidelines should be directed to me, Lillian Skinner, the host and producer. Unauthorized use may result in takedown requests and/or legal action.